Hey guys, this is GalahadB here, and today I'm going to do commentary of my first tournament game that I have played last week against Paccia from Italy. This is a little warm-up tournament before the big international tournament starts. It's called the Continental tournament, where the two continents, Europe, Asia, group together, and among them select two champions, well, basically the two guys that win the most games and lose the fewest. And those two champions face off against the two champions from the Americas, North and South America. And so, yeah, we're in part one now where we Europeans and the few Asians that have joined us duke it out. And I got a bye in the first round because I was the highest rated European player. And so now in the second round, I'm facing Paccia. And since it's a best of one double elimination, we decided to do a little bidding or auction about who gets to play Shadow, because playing base game, Shadow has a, well, some would say a small advantage, others would say a sizable advantage. So we decided, yeah, let's do an auction about who gets Shadow, and Paccia offered me one Dwarven Ring play Shadow. I refused because I don't think one ring is enough to give up the Shadow, and I made a counter offer of giving him one action token and one ring. So I can play Shadow. He accepted, and so he gets to play Shadow with this political token, and we selected a free control market to symbolize the Dwarven Ring. So, yeah, with that out of the way, let's get to it. I am playing Shadow against three peoples, played by Paccia. And so already in the first turn we can see the cards, fairly standard cards, I guess. Importantly, no playable strategy card for the Fellowship. I like to see that. But he doesn't roll any Palantirs. And I get 2 eyes, which is good against 3 movements, because it's fairly likely I'll reveal him either on step 2 or on step 3, and either would be fine for me. So yeah, Fellowship moves. I don't hit. I get a lot of masters early, which I like. That gives me more options later on. He moves again, he's safe. Yeah, and I start by mustering Sauron, Isengard to war, get in Saruman. And at this point, I don't really have to decide where I'm going to attack yet. But with a lot of early masters, Gondor is certainly a target that I might be looking towards, depending on how my rolls the next turn are gonna go. And he moves a third time. Makes sense. I mean, you could play Horn of Gondor here. But I mean, it's very likely I hit him. But there's a fairly solid chance that it's not gonna be a reveal. And you wouldn't mind seeing a non-reveal tile here. You can lose Gandalf to it. Or if it's a 1, maybe just tank the corruption. And then next move, you're out of Moria already. So I'm really hoping for a reveal here. I hit, and I do reveal, and I'm very happy about that. Because he could go Moria now, but that is a little risky, because he might, maybe even draw 3 extra tiles from the Moria stronghold. And so he decided to go for the high pass, which I'm very happy about, because that means I will probably have one more turn than I would have if he had gone through Moria. So at this point, I basically decide, okay, I probably don't want to corrupt the Fellowship. I want to win the military game and try to be as fast as I can. But yeah, I make a really big blunder, and that is, I don't know, I couldn't resist playing that card, because even though I've basically decided I want to go for a military victory, I still play Lure of the Ring, and that is wrong on so many levels. So first of all, he did not take a random companion nor Gandalf out to the 1, so Strider's not guide. So he cannot hide right now unless he gives me a ring, which I would be super excited about. And if I play Lure of the Ring and it hits anyone but Strider, he can change guides afterwards. Change guide back to Strider and can hide again with his last die. So if I'm going to play Lure, I should have played it with the last action die. So he cannot hide this turn. And then next turn he would have to switch to Strider to use his guide ability, foregoing the chance to kill off Gandalf. Which would be fine with me, really. But like this, it's a big mistake. Unless I hit Strider, in which case he would probably tank 3 corruption and not be able to change guides to Strider. But I don't, I hit Legolas, so he dies. And then, yeah, because I wasn't sure if he knew about that rule, I tell him that he can change his guides now because he took a casualty, and that's what he's gonna do. And yeah, that was just wrong ordering of things. And in all honesty, I should have just drawn a card. I don't like drawing cards, but at this point, I mean, there's a very good chance that Fellowship will be safe and sound all the way through. Like, no real way of a ring victory if he's not getting through Moria. With him not having sacrificed Gandalf to the one tile, so very unlikely. I mean, possible, but if I'm not really dedicating a lot of resources on a ring victory, then there's no reason to play Lure now. The worst thing is, like, A, it gave him a free hide now. B, it accelerates Gollum, which I don't want. And yeah, if I'm not going for a full blown out corruption strategy, then if he's taking the high pass, it's very unlikely to really damage him a lot. So yeah, that was just a big misplay on my part. And yeah, I do double army movement, which is reasonable. And now he can change guys back to Gandalf, giving him a chance of a turn 2 Gandalf the White. So yeah, both players get a pretty good roll. Yeah, he plays one of Gondor now. He still doesn't have a playable strategy card, so that makes total sense. Get the redraw now. One thing you could consider here maybe is to use a ring on the Palantir to move again. You can move twice this turn, increasing your chances of killing off Gandalf this turn. And then use the army muster as an army muster, or maybe to hide if you get revealed again. Because right now, I mean, Fellowship is not really under any threat. But I guess it's okay. But I think I would have moved first, and then see what happens. You get hit and lose Gandalf, and so be it. I don't know. Yeah, it's not a mistake. I'm just thinking you really want that turn 2 Gandalf, I think. And you also want that army muster after having used the one on the first turn to hide. Because yeah, this allows me at least to threaten Woodland Realm and Gondor, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. And this forces him now to use the army muster, so he cannot use a ring anymore to increase his chances of killing off Gandalf. And like I said, if I hadn't played Lure of the Ring when I did last turn, then this turn it would have been almost impossible for him to kill off Gandalf. So yeah, that was a really big mistake. But at least it seems like I'm not punished by it right now. Yeah, I'll play Isildur's Bane now. Makes sense, I think, because if it's a reveal, he cannot lose Gandalf to Isildur, and he cannot swap guides. So if I hit, the only way for him to get Gandalf the White this turn would be to use the character die to just separate Gandalf, and then he'll be stranded somewhere. Doesn't hurt me. So I'm not worried about that. I whiff on Isildur though. That's an eye. That's always a bit sad. Didn't have another playable card though, so that made some sense. So I mean, in hindsight, maybe you besiege Minister this turn and then just use that to play Denethor's Folly. Not entirely sure though. Probably fine. I mean, Isildur Spain is a card that you always want to play, unless there's absolutely no way it's gonna matter at all. It's a little less efficient if Strider is guiding, because the reveal wouldn't be a big issue, but with Gandalf as a guide, it's a very good play usually. So yeah, I threaten Gondor here because I feel like I can get the Witch King this turn, and he doesn't have Muster dice, so I can besiege Minister at this turn, unless he uses a Will Muster into Minister. Which he does. And so yeah, he moved this one guy, the South Athelian. I'm not really worried about that because if he had used the Will of the West to move this guy into Minas Morgul, then he can reinforce Minas Tirith. I can just besiege it, and then these 10 guys can take back Minas Morgul. It doesn't cost me a lot, and it did cost him a very important Will of the West. He decided against that, just mustered up in Minas Tirith, which I think is the more reasonable approach. So now I can get the Witch King, which is great. I have 9 dice starting on turn 3, and he's still at 4 dice, so that's very good. And so yeah, while I think it would have been okay to let him capture Minas Morgul, I don't really want to give it to him for free. So that's why I moved these 5 guys over. It's a little inefficient because ideally you would have wanted Moranon to move into Gorgonroth and then the 10 stack army move into Minas Morgul. But the cost for him to move the guy from South Athelion into Minas Morgul this turn would have been pretty big. And next turn, depending on what he rolls, the cost might not have been that big for him. I felt like if he does it this turn, it's gonna cost him a lot, so I'm okay with that. But next turn, it might not cost him a lot because he might have an army muster to spare anyways, and then yeah, I don't want to, because it would cost me 2 additional dice at least if I take back Minas Morgul in one hit. So yeah, didn't want to risk that. So into turn 3 we go. Drew some more corruptions cards. But red tiles are different because red tiles always give me a chance to win the game based on time and not necessarily on corruption. And so yeah, I'm glad he didn't roll a Will of the West here, because like turn 2 Gandalf the White, that would have been pretty bad. And now he doesn't have one. Didn't even kill off Gandalf yet. So I feel like maybe turn 2, if he had used the ring to move again, chances would have been pretty good to lose Gandalf and get Gandalf the White. And now with this roll, it's a little difficult. Like for one, he only has a single muster, and I have a bunch of attacks, so I can't get into Dol Amroth this turn. Even with the South runs, I have like 2 musters and then 5 attacks, which is enough to get the South runs all the way to Dol Amroth. Does not have a will, so yeah. And his playable cards are not the greatest. So yeah, and what he does here is he musters another lead into Minas Tirith, and I think that's a big mistake because, like I said, I have a bunch of attacks, and Dol Amroth is really under threat right now. And the other thing is that Minas Tirith already had 5 army units inside, like 2 elites, 3 regulars. That's 7 HP. That's a pretty strong stronghold to take. And by adding this elite, you're basically only adding a single hit point. So instead of 7 HP, you have 8 HP now. That is better, of course, but it's not that much better. An extra lead into Dol Amroth gives you 2 extra hit points in Dol Amroth. And then if you draw into something like Imrahil or Kidan's ships, which he actually has in hand, So it's not playable now because the elves are not at war. Then you ask him serious questions of the shadow player, whether he's going to be able to take Dol Amroth at all. Whereas that extra elite and Ministerial is likely not going to do anything. I mean, I have 10 more hit points here in Mordor, which I might not even need if I get lucky. But even if I don't get lucky, then I can just come over and help out. There's no real way to hold Ministerial if I try hard for it. And for me as a shadow player, now that I see that his only muster has gone into Ministerial, I'm just thinking about how to best go about taking Dol Amroth now. And yeah, I get the Southerns to war because my initial idea was let's get Umbar to Dol Amroth. But then I'm thinking a little inefficient because if I use another muster to get the Southerns to war, then I'll be left with 3 army dice and 2 character dice. But this army in Umbar doesn't have any leadership. So I'm thinking, okay, let's move the Osgiliath army to Dol Amroth and the Umbar army to Osgiliath. That way I don't even need to get them to war this turn because Osgiliath is not in Gondor. And it allows me to make better use of my character dice and not do some inefficient movement around Westeron or Pelagia where I move one guy from here with the Nazgul over to Pelagia. So I can use the character dice to move this army into Dol Amroth. So yeah, I take Pelagia. And like I said, move Umbar to Osgiliath and the Pelagia army to Dol Amroth. And take it right away. Or at least try to. Yeah, play Deadly Strife. Oh, and one thing I did not talk about yet, I think, is that he used his Palantir to play Axe and Bow when he had another strategy card in hand. And what I think at this point is that Fellowship is fairly healthy. And you also have File in hand now, so you always have that chance to focus more on the Fellowship if need be. But right now, I would be very worried about a quick military victory from the Shadow, so I would try to dig as hard for strategy cards as I can. Now, Kindred of Glorfindel, mustering an extra unit in Rivendell might not be the most useful thing, but with Gandalf as guide, allows you to draw 2 more strategy cards. And that might really help you out a lot. And possibly a lot more than drawing an extra character card. Oh well, which was File of Galadriel, but like I said, I think time is the more pressing concern here and not corruption. So I think that was maybe a slight mistake. Or maybe even use the Palantir as a muster by giving me a ring to muster 1 more lead into Dol Amroth. Because I don't think playing Axe and Bow here was really necessary. So yeah, I played Deadly Strife. He had 2 hits. He did prevent these 2 hits with advantageous position, so that was good for him. But I'm not very busy. Army is so small. Gets back. I press, and I take Dol Amroth with just 1 action die. So yeah, he moves the Fellowship. I hit, no reveal. He loses Gandalf now, but like I said, no Will of the West. I'm very happy about that. And so yeah, I move, like I said, the Umbar army to Osgiliath, and I move these guys from Dol Amroth back towards Minas Tirith, because I think like his Minas Tirith army is pretty sizable. These guys might not be enough to take it, so I need some reinforcements. I don't really want to open up Mordor right now, and I want this leadership in Minas Tirith. Anyways, I might not roll any character dice, so let's get these guys over there so they can help. And yeah. I mean, movement-wise, it's a little inefficient because moving from Osgiliath to Dol Amroth and then from Dol Amroth all the way back to Minas Tirith is not ideal. But the same would have happened if I had moved the Umbar army to the Lamroth, then after taking the Lamroth, I would have moved these guys towards Ministers in anticipation of not being able to take Ministers with just that one army. The general rule of thumb is you need twice the HP you're besieging to reliably win the siege, and that's 8 HP against 12, so probably not enough. I need some backup anyways. So while it's a little inefficient, I think it's reasonable, and Fellowship is not making the fastest progress. He still is 5 steps from Mordor. Means I have at least 2 more turns outside of Mordor, and then 1 more turn in Mordor, so I have at least 3 more turns. Maybe more. Yeah, definitely more because he still hasn't gotten Gandalf the White, so I have 3 turns outside of Mordor, plus 1 turn inside of Mordor, at the very least. So he gets his will now. Yeah, he threatens now to take an Umbar, which I'm not too worried about because I want to move these guys anyways. So I might just move Nihara to Umbar and then Peligir to Lassanage. Oh, but yeah, I'm not worried here again because he doesn't really have the dice for it anyways. To get in Gandalf, he wants to move the Fellowship once, and then using a ring on the Palantir just to take Umbar I don't think is a good idea. So yeah, I play a New Powers Rising, setting up Rohan, because my plan right now is take Gondor for 5 victory points, take 3 more victory points in Rohan, and either get Woodland Realm or Lorien, or maybe even the Shire and Dale for the 4 cities. So that's the plan right now. So I'm not happy to see this many masters and eyes, but I can use them to good effect to make Orthanc really strong and be able to just crush Helm's Deep. And yeah, finally, now that the Southlands are raw, I can play the first card I drew, Swarm of Shadows moving to... Yeah, again, it's a little inefficient to move Osgiliath into Lassanage, but I needed the leadership, so that's why I did that. Yeah, a little inefficient, but I mean, using a character die is also fairly inefficient. Okay, so he misclicked. He does not really have 5 dice right now. Moves once, I hit, still in reveal. But that's okay. He's slow enough that I'm not really worried. And yeah, I attack Ministerial from Lassanage. He goes for field battle, and I think that's very risky because he only has 1 hit point more than he needs. And I'm expected in a normal field battle with 9 dice. I'm expected around 3 hits without playing a card. And any hit past that 1 would really hurt him because then suddenly I'm not besieging 8 HP anymore, but 7, 6, or even only 5 HP. And that's just so much easier. But okay, I mean, Advantageous Position is a good card for this. Still very risky. It does pay off. I only hit him once. I'm expected, even with Advantageous Position and me not really playing a real card, I'm still expected 2 hits. And that would have been worth it for me because, like, even if he gets 3 hits, I mean, I still have another 11 HP, or plus these 5, so 16 HP nearby. So there's no real world where he defends Minas Tirith. But it worked out for him this time. Yeah, again, he continues playing character cards, which makes sense because you don't really have a playable strategy card. Maybe you draw one. Maybe. Yeah, probably not. Probably I would have done the same in this case. Yeah, and with this final muster, I continue to muster up Northang, preparing Rohan. Oh, now he draws Imrahil. Yeah, that's a little too late. Though imagine if he had used Palantir to play Kindred of Glorfindel, I still wouldn't have helped because that turn he didn't have another muster. Only 2 character dice. No. Alright. So Fellowship 4 steps from Mordor. I'm on 3 victory points, besieging Minas Tirith with a big army in Rohan. Things are looking pretty good for me right now. And I roll 5 attacks here, that's great. Got 2 movement, which is fine with him. Can't enter Mordor this turn, which is great. And I have Day Without Dawn, so now it's fairly unlikely. Well, not maybe unlikely, but it's much more difficult for him to make it to Mordor next turn. He's basically forced to give me a ring this turn, and then hope I don't have more cruel weather. He moves armies all the way to Forts of Eisen, leaving Helm's Deep completely empty. I think that's a little risky because there's a good chance that some guys from Minas Tirith will survive. I mean, I have giant armies here, and that they threaten a take on Helm's Deep from Gondor, and then he would have to move back from Forts of Eisen to Helm's Deep, wasting another action. It's a little risky. I mean, you can do that, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I have Denethor's Folly. I'm not the biggest fan of the card, but I think it's great here because he has a big army, 8 HP, so he could really do a lot of damage back to me, especially with an extra leader in there and him being able to play cards. I mean, he has a bunch of character cards, so he might not have a lot of playable ones. But Shield Wall and Kid and Ships both very good here. So yeah, Denethor's Folly really good now. So he passes. I move some armies around. Yeah, preparing Rune, maybe threaten Dale. Maybe I should have just moved Southernland to Northernland, Moria, Northernland, and a future movement, and then threaten on the Shire. Because right now it's really looking like the easiest way to get to 10 victory points is 5 points from Gondor, 3 from Rohan, plus Dale, and the Shire, not risking any more sieges than I need. So yeah, I attack Minas Tirith, playing strategy card. So yeah, I'm playing Onslaught, thinking that I have so many excess regulars. Like I have these 8 guys ready to just move in at first chance. And Onslaught seems like a good play. The question is though, how many hits do I inflict on myself here? Because I don't want to downgrade elites, because I need them to press. I want to be as fast with my dice as possible. So I can only kill off regulars. But then if I take 4 regulars, for example, and I don't hit very well, then he can just sortie his way out of Minas Tirith, which would be really bad for me. And I'm thinking if I take down 3 regulars, I'm only left with 3 combat dice against his 5 potentially combat dice, so that doesn't sound so good. So I decided to take 2 regulars down because that gives me 8 dice in combat, 4 combat plus 4 rerolls against his 5 dice. So it would have been fairly risky if he tries a sortie. Plus I get to play cards and he does not. And even though I don't have any playable, any cards that really do anything here, I might have, and that would be really, really bad for him. So I think 2 is fine, and then I do get 2 hits, so that worked out perfectly. And then suddenly he's down to only 5 HP in Minas Tirith. I have giant army sieging him, so things are looking great for me. And yeah, here I played Deadly Strife, wanting to nail in a coffin as soon as I can. He gets a really bad roll, just a single hit from. And these are things like with an extra leadership in Minas Tirith, he probably would have done 2 or 3 more hits this battle. Which, I mean, wouldn't have mattered for Minas Tirith probably, but might matter for Gondor. Oh yeah, and I pressed without a card, getting the hit I need. And so suddenly I'm at 5 victory points, which seems great. But yeah, he gives me ring, moves again, is safe, and is now 2 steps from Mordo. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna enter Mordo on turn 6, and he might win within 2 turns of entering Mordo. So my goal is really to put the game in the bag by turn 7, which is looking fairly reasonable. I have a giant army in Orthanc, I have a giant army in Mr. And I'm eyeing the 2 cities now for my final 2 victory points. And it's almost impossible for him to defend that because the north is not at war, neither are the elves, neither are the dwarves, and he doesn't have a companion anywhere close to Bree or the Shire for Fearfire foes, nor for Eredluin or Erebor. So unless he separates someone from the fellowship, which he might not have the dice for, then he cannot really defend that. So yeah, I don't know exactly why I take Old Forest Road here. Yeah, I am thinking about Woodland Realm. I think actually that's a mistake. I think Helm's Deep is much easier to take now with this giant army in this earth. Yeah, I'm very happy I only roll single eye. I have a bunch of great attack rolls here. He's gonna make Mordor, but I don't mind that. Yeah, Besiege Woodland Realm, I think that's a mistake. Well, actually not the biggest mistake. I can merge East Rune with Woodland Realm. Uh, Yeah, right. And he has Stranules archers, and that's why I now think, okay, maybe Woodland Realm is a little too risky for comfort. Let's go for the post cities instead. But first, I need to get Rohan secured. Yeah, he moves again. He's safe. So he's in Mordor now. No problem. And first I was thinking, let's bring this Minister's army over to Helm's Deep, but I mean, the Rohan army is really strong, and I don't want to risk him fighting his way out of Rohan with Paths of the Roses and threatening a retake on Minas Tirith if I move too many guys out of there. So that's why I decided to first try it with the Orthanc army and not even bother to move the Minas Tirith army out yet unless I need them. So I play a Swarm of Bats. We can't just retreat with scouts. I get 3 hits, which is definitely lucky. Kind of balancing for that field battle in Minas Tirith. This one just went the other way. And now he has almost nothing in Rohan. So he plays Ents. Fine with me. I don't need Saruman. That's why I put all the Nazgul in there. So Saruman doesn't really matter. And I expect the game to end next turn. So I'm only losing a single die. I don't mind that at all. Yeah, and he does the safety step, which I think is absolutely reasonable. There's nothing really he gains by doing a different action. None of the other nations are at war. But it's looking pretty bad for him because, like, with only 3 HP in Helm's Deep and 14 HP besieging it, there's almost no way he can hold on to that. And I'm expected to take it in 1 round, especially with Great Host, which is an automatic hit. And yeah, I get 2 sixes here plus Great Host, so I take it in single round of combat. And yeah, now I merge South Dunland with North Dunland. And I don't bring the guys from Moria over, which might be a mistake, but yeah, I think it's fine. Because I only need 2 attacks next turn to seal the deal here. It's only 1 HP in the Shire, it's only 1 HP in Dale. He can muster once though after I attack 1 place, because then North will be at war because I attacked Old Forest Road. So like I said, it was probably a mistake for me to even attack Old Forest Road. Should have just moved the Rune guys and Moria, South Dunland to North Dunland, and then threaten Shire and Dale and ignoring the elves completely. But still, I mean, I only need 2 attacks. Even if he musters a single elite, it's 3 HP in Dale against 7 HP. Or 3 HP in Shire against 6 HP. It's not good odds for him at all. But I rule some eyes, some musters, few attacks, but I do have a ring, so I'm not really worried. And I also have ring racer abroad that can get leadership up there. So it's looking almost impossible for him now to come back into that game. Unless some crazy miracle happens. But he doesn't really have anything like... Yeah, even parts of the WOTRs won't do anything here because he does not have an army. And no easy victory points to reclaim. The one out he does have here is he has free movement. If he uses his Dwarven Ring now, it's very likely he gets 4th movement, and he still has a ring, so he might just go for 5 straight movements. And there are more than 4 tiles that don't reveal him, so if he he runs into 4 of these straight, he might just win the game. But it's so unlikely. So he uses a ring now because the odds of him getting a ring dunk this turn are probably bigger than of him surviving until next turn. And he does get his movement. So he has a shot now. He moves, and I say let's send some hopes. I was really hoping for a reveal now, but it's only a 1. So it's still possible. And I am really worried about that, and I also have a ring, so I decide, okay, let's play Shelob, make his odds even worse than before, because I only need 2 attacks, and I have a safety of a ring and a muster. I don't think I'm going to bring in the Mouth of Sauron, because it's so unlikely for him to succeed his defense. And he moves again, second step, and I do get a reveal now. So, game is almost over now. But there is some chance that maybe if he plays Confusion and I roll a bunch of 1s, or I just don't hit at all and he hits really well, that maybe he survives another turn. He definitely has great odds if he can survive this turn. It's just very unlikely. So we play it out, get some corruption. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, and play half orcs. I still have the 2 attacks with the ring and ring racer abroad. So my idea was to make it as safe as I can. Probably a little overkill. Because it would have been probably better to just have 1 more attack, and then in case this giant Veil of the Khanan army gets defeated by the Dale army, I would have another attempt out of Woodland Realm, which I don't have anymore now. So yeah, he hides. I use ring, play ring racer abroad, and I think my Nazgul assignment is slightly off here, because if I attack the Shire first, which I do, then I mean it's 6 HP against 1. I should only bring 1 or 2 Nazgul here, because it's like almost completely impossible for him to win that. Whereas Veil of the Khanan into Dale is a little more difficult, but I also have way more units. It doesn't really matter much. But Confusion and a bunch of 1s is what I'm really afraid of. And now I even play Deadly Stripe here, so even Confusion wouldn't stop me. And yeah, so Shire out of the way. He musters in lead and Dale, and I go for Dale. And first round of combat, I don't want to play Desperate Battle on the first round. Because I feel like probably helping him more than me. Like, he only rolls 3 dice, I roll 7 dice, and next turn I'll hit on 5s anyway, so I just want to survive the first round of combat without too much damage. But he hits twice anyways, so that wasn't really worth it. And now I play Desperate Battle. 3 hits, but he has Shield Wall to block 1. Gets 2 more hits, which is still fine. I still have 5 dice, and he's now down to 1 HP. But he does get another hit, so I mean this 9 HP army is now down to 4 HP, so these guys in Dale definitely gave me a run for my money. But that army was just way too big. Yeah, and since with a military victory the game doesn't end until all the action dies are played for, we decide okay, he gets another move just for the statistics. But yeah, I get my first tournament win on 10-7 with a military victory against Paccia. I think it was a good game for both of us. I think he got a little unlucky with the reveal on step 3. I think it's fairly reasonable with if you move 3 times against 2 highs. Kind of likely you'll be revealed on step 2 or on step 3. And either would have been fine for me. The only way this is really bad for me if he does not get revealed on any of the 3 first steps. And then yeah, I had good action dice all around. So did he. Maybe if he had gotten a will on 10-3, things would have been slightly better for him. But I mean, looking at how the game panned out, I don't think so. But if he had gotten Gandalf out turn 2, that would have maybe been a pretty significant difference. But yeah, didn't happen. I think that was probably the biggest thing that he maybe could have done differently, but it's hard to know that in advance. But yeah, thinking back on it, I think not using a ring, either a Dwarven ring or an Elven ring on that Palantir and 10-2 is probably the one thing that he should have done differently, and also mustering Dol Amroth over Minas Tirith, because that probably would have cost me 1 or 2 extra dice. And you know, in the end, it got fairly close with my action dice. So maybe, but yeah, looking at these giant armies that I still have left, might not have mattered at all. So, anyways, yeah, that's the game. I can show you the statistics. Yeah, I think you can see it now, right? These are the action dice and the combat dice, so I'm very balanced, +0 on everything that matters. He's down on 6s plus on 5s, which was Dale most importantly, so that didn't really help him too much because my army was just so much bigger than his. And yeah, I was very low on Palantirs, plus on Masters and Attacks, which is also pretty good. I think it was just fairly good rolls all around. And the crucial difference is he had Gandalf out turn 4 when he really needed a turn 2 Gandalf. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game. If you have any comments, please let me know, and I'll try to do a video of all my tournament games. So I have hopefully some more games in the Continental tournament, the little warm-up tournament, before the big international tournament begins, which now opened registration. So please come over and sign yourself up for the yearly International WOTR online tournament, which will begin in early February. So I'm very excited for that. It's my first time playing in that, and let's hope I'll do fairly well so I can keep you entertained with a lot of videos. So that's it for me for today. Have a wonderful weekend and see you soon. Bye bye.